Figure it out.
Hello, this is Adam Koralik with Figure It Out Productions. The following video is part of our Quick Shoot series.
Hey guys, got a little surprise package here. This is from PCWZRD13, Jonathan. He sent me this, and he sent me other things in the past. He sent me an N64 for free once, which I made a video about how to clean that up. And in here, well, you saw the title, and so screw it. Let's just go ahead and open this and get to the good part, shall we? Go right there and tear it open. Alright, and we have packaging, we have something here, and here we have the main course of our box meal. It's a Sega Genesis Model 2, and today I'm going to show you how to clean one of these, and, if you have one and you want to restore it. So let's look at, just for the hell of it, let's look at what else is in here. He gave me some RF cables. And this is just packing material, it looks like. And something else I was not... Oh, he included some games. I was not expecting any games. What else we got here? Ooh, that's really cool. He included a poster. Wow. I was not... A poster for Eternal Champions. That's really, really awesome. And the back is just a cool series of ads for Sega stuff, including an ad for the Sega CDX. Wow, I was not expecting this. And he included Super Monaco GP, and no need to thank me for Shaq Fu. Well, I'm going to say thank you anyway. Thank you, PCWZRD13, Jonathan. Thank you. I was not expecting this at all. He just sent me a message and said, hey dude, I got this extra Sega Genesis laying around. I don't need it. Do you want it? And, well, needless to say, I jumped all over that. But, so, despite this, seriously, thank you, Jonathan, PCWZRD13. But now let's move on. Let's go ahead and let's clean this up. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and get into this Sega Genesis. And for that, all you need is a standard Phillips screwdriver. No bullshit game bits like Nintendo always used. Sega loved to make things standard. So you got 4 ports. One there, one there, one there, one there. So all you gotta do is go ahead and remove the screws, and then we'll move on. Okay, so once you've got your screws out, all you do is lift the lid, and it pops right up like that. And we look under here, it's not too bad. I mean, there's some dust in there. Jonathan, PCWZRD13, told me that the thing had just been sitting in a corner collecting dust, and considering that it was collecting dust, I'm led to believe they don't have a whole lot of dust in your house, dude, because this is not particularly dusty. But anyway, moving on. We find now here we look at the advantage of no moving parts. It's just basically a giant motherboard is really all that the Sega Genesis is. So that's cool because they work forever. So I guess the next step what we're going to do is we're going to take off the RF shield here, this metal plate. And to do that, there's a series of screws held all around the edges of the motherboard. So again, the same Phillips screwdriver will get them all out. So yeah, just go ahead and do that, and then we'll lift that off. Okay, so once you've got your screws out, you can just go ahead and lift the RF shield straight off. And so now you can pretty much see the entire motherboard there. But we still have 2 screws we have to take out. There's 2 on the cartridge slot here. So we'll just go ahead and do that very quickly. Again, the same Phillips screwdriver will work, which is, always awesome. You might want to use gloves for this kind of thing, but I'm not doing that. And these 2 screws are slightly bigger, and they're obviously black, so make sure to remember that when you set them aside, keep them together. But once you've done that, you can lift the motherboard straight off. Just might get hooked on something a little bit, right there on the controller port at least. It might get hooked there. But be careful, lift it off, and that's the Sega Genesis. That's the entire unit right here. We're going to put this to the side right now, and we can see underneath the Genesis there's this little plastic part that goes underneath the cartridge slot, like that, and that's how it holds the screws in. Remember that this side with the little hole there is, faces up and goes on the bottom of the board, and this other side that looks different. You'll notice how this is all plastic right there, and then the back side has like a series of holes. The holes go down. Okay, that makes sense. So set that aside and set the motherboard aside, and we'll go back to this, and we'll take off the rest of the RF shielding. And now we get to just the plastic, and true enough, it is pretty dusty. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to take this and just use soap and water. I'm just going to rinse it up and just get it nice and shiny and clean. And the same goes for the lid here. Now, you could actually take the lid apart. In fact, I will. There's 3 screws right there, and that will take the cartridge slot out. And down here you have the power and the reset button. The Mega Drives, the Japanese and European Mega Drives, might be slightly different. I know they had like switches and not buttons. I don't actually have one to show. But you guys had a slightly different model, but I assume it's very similar to disassemble them. In this case, you take these 2 little clips on the side, push them, kind of in like that, and you might need something like a screwdriver to poke it through. But it'll pop out, and there's your button, and you can clean that up. And I'm going to do the same with the other one. I believe you could also take out this little piece right here. It easily comes out. You just got to kind of pull on it a little bit. And you can take that out and clean that up as well. So yeah, I'm just going to run water on all of this. I'm going to finish disassembling it, and then we'll see where we're at. Okay, so I've gone ahead and rinsed them all, and now they're just wet and drying off. And obviously it looks splotchy because it's got water on it, but the dust is gone, so it's all the pieces are in much better shape. I forgot to mention this before. This Sega Genesis did not come with the side piece for the Sega CD attachment. You may have a piece of plastic right here that comes off, and a red piece of, well, plastic, and that covers the expansion port. Like I said, this is for the Sega CD. This Genesis did not include that, which is fine, whatever, I have extras. But you'll want to go ahead and clean that plastic too. And I just simply forgot to mention that, so I apologize. But yeah, so now what we're going to do, we're going to let this dry, because obviously you don't want to put anything back together while there's still moisture on there. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start working on cleaning the actual motherboard here. Now to do that, well, you don't want to use water. So we're going to do a few things. First, we're going to use some compressed air, and we're just going to spray it, this, compressed air. We're just going to use it, and we're going to spray it on the motherboard. And just get some, I don't know how much of that you could see, but dust chunks are flying off. So I'm going to go ahead and keep doing that, and then I'll show you what we're going to do after that. Okay, so after you're done with the compressed air, there's other things you can do on the board, and I'm about to show you that, but I should have mentioned this earlier. You can also wash these RF shields with soap and water, just like you can with the plastic pieces, and I'd recommend doing that quickly so that they can dry off and be ready to go when you're ready to put everything else back together. But I'll do that in a minute. But back to the board, there's a few things we can do. And the first, I think what we're going to do is clean out the cartridge slot. So what I use for this is a cartridge cleaning kit. I've used this many times in the past. I realize that most people cannot get this. This is a very random and rare item now. So there's actually a very easy alternative. You can do something called the credit card method. You take a credit card, or any kind of plastic card really, and wrap it in felt cloth. You can do exactly what I'm about to do. What you do is you take your cartridge cleaning kit or your felt cloth thing, and you spray some Windex on it. This is Windex. In the UK, this is known as Windowline. It is basically an ammonia-based glass cleaner. You take it and you spray some on here, kind of rub it around a little bit on both sides, and then you just take it and you slip it into the cartridge slot, up and down a few times, like that, back and forth, up and down, and that should just, basically it'll just clean the pin contacts. And if I go here's my finger, I'll take this, I'll rub it off like that, and you can see there's just dust and other, just gunk and dirt and stuff that was trapped inside there that's now gone. And I'm going to do this a few more times, but doing this is great because it'll obviously it cleans it, and it'll make it much more likely that all the games will work immediately. You can also, there's another thing you can do with the Genesis, in addition to cleaning that, which I'm going to do, and I also recommend once you've cleaned it a few times, you dry it off and stick it back in there and get out excess moisture. And I also recommend that you blow around some compressed air in there when you're done. But the other thing we can do is, this is, like I said before, this is the Sega CD attachment part right here. And you'd want to treat this similar to the way you would a game. So what you're going to do is take Q-tips, and again Windex, because Windex is awesome. You're going to want to take this and rub it along the contacts here, like this, back and forth, on both sides, by the way. And then you'll see there's just a bunch of dirt and stuff on there. And of course you'll take the dry side and dry it off. Now, if you don't have a Sega CD, this doesn't really matter all that much, but I'd still recommend doing it, just, you know, for the sake of, see, look, more dirt, just for the sake of completion. So now I'm going to go ahead and finish cleaning up the cartridge slot and the bottom side of this. And what you could also do, if you want to, is you can clean some of the contacts there on the controller port. And I guess what I would do is take another Q-tip, kind of spray it with Windex, and kind of gently just kind of rub inside and clean some of the contacts out. And if you want to, I would also say you should clean up these ports back here. Again, a little compressed air. That's probably all you'll really need to do, is just kind of spray some in there and get a little bit of dust bits out. So I'm going to finish that up, and then we'll move on. Okay, so while those parts are drying, I'm going to go ahead and clean these games, because, you know, what the hell, we might as well clean these games. And again, thank you PCWZRD13, Jonathan, for sending these to me. I was not expecting any games. And while I own a ton of Genesis games, amazingly, you found 2 that I don't have. And good job with that. I don't know how you did that, but good job. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do what I always do when I come to cleaning games. You just take a Q-tip, and once again, Windex, I'm telling you, stuff's amazing. They should advertise that it's really good for cleaning games. I don't know why they don't. But anyway, take that, spray some on, just like we did with that Sega CD expansion port, and you just go ahead and rub along the contacts like that. Back and forth, you know, a few times. You know, look at all the dirt. Yeah. Then swap to the clean side, swap to the other dirty side, the other dry side of the cartridge. Rub it again, a few times back and forth, and more crap. Now we flip over to the dry side and repeat the exact same process. Go back and forth a few times, dry it off, tons of dirt. Take the other clean dry side versus the other wet side, back and forth, and yeah, that does it right there. Look at all that junk on there. And I'm just going to go ahead and repeat the process on Shaq Fu, because who doesn't want to play Shaq Fu? But that's the ideal way to clean a cartridge. Just do that along with cleaning the pins. I pretty much guarantee this thing will work perfectly the first time. Figure as long as we're waiting for the other things to dry, I can show you how to clean a Genesis controller, because it's really not that hard. First, go to the back. There are 6 screw ports. This too uses Phillips screws, although it uses smaller ones, so you might want to get a slightly smaller Phillips head screwdriver. Okay, so once you have your screws out, you just kind of take it apart. It's really pretty simple. There might be some pieces that fly out of there, but that's really no big deal. Back piece comes right off like that, and then the controller board right there, you just kind of pop off there and take that out of the way. And well, that is your Sega Genesis controller board. But here we have all the buttons. You just kind of let them pop out like that. Here's your front plate, your back plate, and your little buttons. And I would say go ahead and take a look at whatever's dirty. In this case, our D-pad. Well, all our buttons really are dirty. These little pads, the sensor pads, I'd say just put those to the side. You probably won't really need to clean those. So just go ahead, and just like with the cases, you just run these under water, soap and water, clean them up a bit, and yeah, I'll go ahead and do that. I will also take a look at this board here. This one looks like it's in pretty good shape, but there was always the possibility that there'd be some damage on the buttons in some way, and you could clean that up with like Windex and a Q-tip, and theoretically, if it's not working, that would get it working again. But this controller seems to be okay, so I really doubt it would need that. So obviously, I'm not going to bother. So I'll just go ahead and clean up the plastic. Okay, so I've rinsed them up. All the dust is gone, and now, just like with the case, I just have to sit and let them dry. Sometimes people ask me, like, could you just wipe them down with a towel? Could you use like a hairdryer or whatever? You could, but I kind of like to just let them air dry. I find it should just be the easier method and the more thorough method. Because if you're in a rush and you just kind of put it back together, by using a blow dryer or trying to, just rinse it with your hands, there's a very good chance that some moisture is going to stick around, and it's going to get on the board, and that could be catastrophic. So I like to be very thorough. But I mean, you could expedite it a little. I could take this and I could just rub this on my pants for a second, and then come back and it's a little bit drier. But that's not going to help with the inside. So that's really up to you. But I suggest patience when it comes to this kind of thing, because there's no sense in risking the life of the controller or the system just so you could play the game, like a half hour earlier. Just be patient. Okay, now that everything's dry, I'm just going to go ahead and put it back together. So with these controllers, I suggest starting here with this part, and you'll notice every single one of these little pieces, you can't put it in the wrong place. They'll only fit in one way. So just go ahead and do that real quick. In this case, I'll put in the A, B, and C button, and then I'm going to go over here and put in the start button, and then we'll put in the D-pad, and there you go, you're all set there. Now take these little parts right here and pop them on like that, and take one of these little pads and put it in there just like that. Really, really easy. And then take the board and turn it over like that. And then there's little holes that you just line up. And let me make sure we got the right side here. Yep. You got to line it up like that. Put them right over the holes, and it'll just fit right into place. And then you kind of wind the controller a little bit and make sure it's, like this. There's a little perforation type of thing there to kind of hold that in place. And there you go. The controller is essentially back together. We just take the back piece now, lock it in like that, and then we just put in our 6 screws, tighten it back up, and there you go. The Genesis controller is back together. Alright, so the controller's back together, and it's looking pretty good. I'm satisfied. Now let's move on to the actual system. So we'll put it back together, and so you're going to want to start with the base piece, the bottom, and then take this piece of RF shielding and just pop it on like so. It goes on pretty easily. And then what you're going to want to do is take this plastic piece, and remember I said that the one with like the 4 corner parts, that's got to go on the bottom like that. And then we'll take our motherboard and we'll just kind of pop it into place. Very simple. Goes in really easily. And so what you're going to do at this point is take the 2 black screws, you'll remember those 2 big ones, and we're going to put them both right in here. And I'll obviously tighten those up. And then once we've done that, we want to take our other piece of RF shielding and apply it right on, just like that. And take all of those little brass screws we got before and go back around to the various points and install them. So go ahead and do that. Okay, all back together, looking pretty good. So we put that to the side, and we're going to get our other part, our lid here. And just put all the pieces back in place. We've got our power button here. We just put that in. Make sure you don't put it in upside down. Obviously the power button goes on the left. Push it in, nice and clicky. Same goes with the reset button. Don't put it in upside down. Obviously it goes on the right. Put that in. And then we take the other this piece of plastic, and then you find it, just pop it right in. Goes in very easily. And then finally we take the cartridge loading bay, and you can't screw this up either. 2, screw ports there on that side, and 1 on this side. 1 on this side, 2 on this side. Very obvious. And it just kind of clicks in, and then of course you're going to have to screw it in the 3 screw ports. Okay, you've got those pieces all put back together. Now let's actually put the system together. Very simple. Just flip it like that, and there you go. It's very, very easy. So just go ahead and take your 4 screws and put them into place. Okay, so now it's back together, and as you can see, it's looking pretty good. But it's not quite there. First, we have to put on these extra pieces. Now, your Sega Genesis probably had this, unless you lost them. This Sega Genesis, unfortunately, did not come with it, but, that's no big deal, because they have extra pieces. So what you're going to do is, of course, take this little red piece, it says do not remove, and cover up the board like that, and keep the do not remove part down so you can read it when you're flipping it up like this. I mean, I guess you don't have to do that, but that's just the way Sega did it originally. And then take this black piece and Just put it up on the side there to cover up the expansion bay. And for whatever reason that I don't understand, Sega did not make these the same on the Model 1 and the Model 2, so you can't actually swap this black piece of plastic, which is just really stupid, but whatever, that's what they did. So now we move on to the next phase, which is making it look shinier. Now what you would typically do is you'd find, like, if you had like little white scratches or multicolored scratches, I'd say go ahead and get those out. And to do that, you'd use Mr. Clean's Magic Eraser, which is just like this foam stuff that you kind of rub along the system to get rid of things like that. But this system actually doesn't have anything like that. It doesn't have any white scratch marks on it anywhere, so I can't really show you that. But I will tell you to be careful with it, because if I were to use it on this part that says Sega or on this part that says Genesis, it would take those right off. So you don't want to use it unless it's actually a mark that you can easily get to that won't damage anything else. So be careful with that. So we're just going to skip past that phase, and we're going to go on to the shining phase. I guess I could make some sort of Jack Nicholson joke there, but I'm not going to. But anyway, usually what I use is WD-40, or at least that's what I've used in the past. And a number of people were saying, hey, don't use that, use Pledge. So we're using Pledge now. I'm going to just take a paper towel, and I'm going to just spray some Pledge on it, and we're just going to wipe it around like this. And it should just make the system shinier, and it'll make it, smell good. Not that that's super important or anything, but yeah, I'm just going to wipe this all over the system, and then we'll see what it looks like. Alright, and there we go. After letting it dry for a little bit, this is what it looks like with Pledge on it, and I think this thing cleaned up pretty damn well, don't you think? But the question, of course, is, does it work? Jonathan, PCWZRD13, never told me if it works or not, and I cleaned the crap out of it, so I've got to believe it works. Sega Genesis is a really hard system to kill. But let's go ahead and let's find out. Okay, so I have the Sega Genesis all hooked up. I'm actually using a SCART to component adapter. My European friends, you will know what SCART is. My fellow Americans, you have no idea for the most part, I'm assuming. But, well, it doesn't really matter, but this is the best way to get video quality out of the Sega Genesis. It's amazing. But anyway, so, which game? Should we test Super Monaco GP or Shaq Fu? Monaco GP, Shaq Fu. You all want Shaq Fu, so I'm just going to do it. So here we go. First try. Pop it in. Fits in nicely, of course. And powers up to the TV. And alright, there you go. It's running. Ooh, Electronic Arts. Yeah. Good old Shaq Fu. Oh man, Shaq Fu. Well, anyway, there you go. The Sega Genesis is fully functional, and it goes to show you, cleaning it can go a long way. So I hope you guys learned how to take care of your Sega Genesis Model 2, your games, even if they are Shaq Fu, and your controllers. And thank you all for watching, and a huge shout out to PCWZRD13, Jonathan, for sending all of this to me for absolutely nothing, dude. That was really, really cool of you. Thanks everybody for watching.